Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the Outdoor Channel. This is our Lund 1875 crossover XS, but an absolutely fantastic boat, and we have outfitted it with Humminbird and Minn Kota products. Now, I'm not at all affiliated with Johnson Outdoors, but just simply what I've grown up with. And if you saw the title of today's video, you know we ran into a couple of issues, especially as we've upgraded some of the Humminbird products and the compatibility with other Humminbird products. Let's tell you about it. This is a Helix. This is actually one of the biggest models they made. This is a Helix 15, and I will say if you have the space for it, it's a pretty good model. The Helix has been around for, I don't know, forever, say quite a few years, and there's a lot of things that work pretty well with it. You do have to get the occasional adapter depending on what you're hooking up into, but overall it's been a pretty good unit. This is our XPORE 12. This is a relatively new unit, at least last year, for Humminbird. You can see we have it mounted here at the helm, and it's got our custom mount. I have a separate video on the install of that mount, and you can see on the ram mount next to it, we have our Vessel View Mobile to give us some of our readouts and gauges. And even though they are both Humminbird products, you would expect them to have some level of compatibility, and they really don't. Though we have these both networked, again, I have a separate video on that as well, and you expect them to be able to share things like waypoints and some other, data things that are out there, and it really does not do that very well. But looking at the back of the unit, there is a whole separate set of plugs on the back of the new XPORE unit. Now, some things like the transducer, you would expect that. Okay, the power cable is unique. Okay, that's fine. The network adapter, okay, that's consistent with at least the Solex and the Apex, so that's okay. But this NMEA connector, which is the one we're really going to talk about today, is what's really killing me right here. Because if you have one of these GPS or GPS encompasses, they have a plug that's unique to whatever application it's going to. And yes, again, we have an install video on that. But guess what? That plug for the Helix looks nothing like the plug there for the XPORE. And you would think, well, Humminbird loves their adapters. A great way for them to make some money. And they have an adapter that looks like it'll work. And here's the part number. And you would think that it works. And here are the plugs. This one looks like it goes in that Helix adapter, and this one looks like it'll go into the NMEA connection here, except that it doesn't. The Helix to Helix portion of the adapter works just fine. This is a NMEA 0183 type connector, and on the back of the XPORE, we have a NMEA 2000 connector. And they look the same, but they are ever so slightly different. Humminbird actually called this out as an Apex adapter. Maybe they used the 0183 connection, but in either case, this adapter and part number will not work. So that means we get to get an entirely new GPS puck, and this one has the heading sensor. Now, that's perfectly fine. I kind of like the heading sensor, except that if you're in a spot anywhere near your motor or some speakers or just any kind of magnetic interference, it's going to throw that heading sensor off. We're going to have to go ahead and test and see if that'll work. Now, relocating the sensor, for some of you may not be a big deal. I've got a big hole drilled right there, so that is staying where it's at. So today's video, pretty straightforward. We're going to do an install, show you how to do that, do a quick review on the water, see how it works, and we'll tell you how it goes. So stay tuned. All right, there is your adapter. There is your part number. You can get these on Amazon. You can get it direct from Johnson. Probably your local dealer will have this as well. But if you have an XPLR and you want the GPS sensor, at least at the time of making this video, this is what you're going to have to get. There is no suitable adapter for it. So make sure you get the right one, because just like anything else from Johnson Outdoors, once you destroy the packaging, that's pretty much it. It is yours. They make it pretty child-proof, so let's go ahead and do that now. And I said child-proof, it's really adult-proof. You guys get the idea. GPS puck and screws. And please don't tell me this is the adapter that they could just sell separately. I would be really upset if that's the case. Okay, and it does not. This, I believe, is for power for your NMEA connection. Not sure if we'll need that in this particular application, but there you guys go. You can see it. And here's the other end if you need, again, to give it power. Again, we'll figure that out along the way here. Okay, they give you an extra base because some applications can make use of that. You have some supplied hardware. And the GPS puck or sensor. Again, this one has the built-in magnetic compass. And here's that cord that they could not make an adapter for. So before we get into the install, let's first talk a little bit about NMEA and what it is and what are some of the other proprietary networks. Now, NMEA stands for National Marine Electronics Association. And basically they have a standard, or as you can see, a set of standards to be able to hook up electronics on your boat from multiple different manufacturers. Proprietary networks are going to be unique to each manufacturer. So Garmin's going to have theirs, Lowrance has theirs. In today's video, we're talking about Humminbird. Theirs is the One Boat Network. That proprietary network is really, in this case, only going to talk to other items that are made by Johnson Outdoors. Looking again at the back of the XPORE 12, as you can see, they have a NMEA 2000 connection. The 0183 standard is still out there and still pretty widely used, but the NMEA 2000 connection is probably the more popular one. And then, of course, right next to that, you will have the connection for the One Boat Network. So, if we're talking about NMEA today, let's get into a couple of use cases. Got a boat, the boat's got a motor, and let's say you want to hook that up to your Humminbird, Helix or Explorer or Solix, whatever that happens to be. You can actually do that through a NMEA connection, or what is referred to as a NMEA backbone. You can actually view a set of gauges right on your graph, things like temperature, RPMs, oil pressure, whatever signals are being sent. You can add a digital fuel gauge right to your fuel cell, because we all know that the analog gauges that come with the boat are super accurate. And there's a number of different accessories from different manufacturers you can all connect together. And as you're looking at this, you might be wondering, why would I ever hook up my marine radio to the GPS sensor on this same network? And that's because most fixed mount radios actually have a button or a feature on there that will allow you to send a GPS signal. If you ever get in a spot where you're in trouble and you got to send a mayday, you actually can send GPS coordinates to send help to wherever you're at. And we kind of alluded to this earlier, you do need to hook up your backbone to a 12-volt power source to make it work. And nothing really to it, just like hooking up your transducer or your power network. You just need to line up your cord here, just like that, and go ahead and screw that in, just like that. You do have to connect this to a 12-volt power source, so basically your battery or something on your boat that is connected to your battery, in order for this to work, if you're going to go directly to your fish finder, in our case, the Explorer. If you have a backbone already that's already got a power supply, you could just connect it directly to that. But again, to your fish finder, you have to connect power to it, because if you don't, you will have no signal. And so, yay me, I will have to tear part of my dash apart to get to my fuse panel, or actually I have a bus from when I installed this and the network, and run this to 12-volt power. So we'll be right back. So my mount, of course, is custom, but even if you have the standard kind of gauges on here, it's just 4 screws. Mine has a few more, and your boat naturally may be a little bit different yet. But whatever that is for you, go ahead and locate your fuse box in an open position. Now what I've done is I have these buses that are here. This is tapped in the fuse box with a 15 amp fuse, and then each respective circuit has its own inline fuse. So one goes to the Helix at the bow, one to the Explorer that's here, and one that goes down to the network switch below the helm here, each one with the appropriate size fuse. When you run power to this, you have to decide what is most appropriate for you and your boat. Some people like to solder, like I did here with my fuses. You can use ring connectors, you can use butt connectors, you can use whatever is appropriate for you, but go ahead and do that now. I now get the fun task of unscrewing the old one and placing the new one, of course, pulling out the cabling out of the gunnel here to the helm and running a new cable up to the helm. So here's kind of the next annoying thing about this. As I'm getting ready to pull this new cord, I'm kind of using the old cord to pull this through my gunnel and everything. I have just realized how short this cord is, especially for how much money this guy is. I mean, full retail I think is around $300. I was lucky to get this for about $245. So check pricing on this, but for the amount of money that you spend, you get this little cord that's pretty much useless. So now I'm going to go back to the store and get an extension for NMEA 2000. Here we go. And you can just see how much longer the old cord was here compared to the new one. Now what I ended up doing was using the old cord to kind of feed the new one in, making it a little bit easier on myself. Now normally I would say don't permanently run and mount this. Get on the water, test that magnetic compass, make sure you're not getting any interference from, like I said at the beginning of the video, the motor or speakers or anything else in the boat that might pull on that magnetic compass. I have a giant hole here, so this is where it's going. So I have my cord from the GPS sensor. I have my extension here that I got on Amazon earlier today. This should just line up, and because it's a standard NMEA 2000 connection, should just screw into place because it's got a standard. And there we go. Moving to the helm, we have the other end of our extension. Going to pull it out just a little bit. And we also have our 12-volt power we ran a moment ago. We have our adapter that came with the new kit. We'll go ahead and plug that part in. So it'll look like that. And our NMEA connection to the other side here, and then we'll just size it up with the rest of our cabling and start to put this back together. And I'll run a quick test before we button everything back up here. Let's go ahead and try this out. Now we can see our GPS puck or sensor is here. It's black because the auto detect is on. Turn that off, and then I can select this or any other NMEA 2000 device on or off. We'll leave the auto detect on, but clearly it is there. The system is reading it. So I know that this corner of the garage, roughly where the blue cabinets are in my old Chevy grill up there, is roughly south. And if I try to zoom in between the steering wheel there and look at that boat, it is not facing south. And that is because the arrow on this is facing the side of the boat here off the gunnel. So if I just take this and temporarily kind of just move it towards that corner, just for the sake of the test, doesn't need to be perfect, and try to zoom in again, you can see that boat is facing south. Now off camera, I'm just kind of turning the puck, and you can see it moving around. So the compass is working. Still got to get it on a water test here, but you guys get the idea. All right, clean this up a little bit, and I'll overlay some footage of what it took to drill this hole out. Drilling holes always make you cringe on a brand new boat. Hopefully these holes will line up. They give you a couple different size screws, and basically it's a matter of, again, after you test this, securing it. Now, instead of looking at this huge bundle of wires, one of the things I like to do, and I've shown this in other videos I've done on the boat, is to get a decent size wire loom and just kind of wrap these up, tie them up a little bit. All right, we are out here on the water. Sorry if there's a little bit of wind noise, and we're testing that new heading sensor. Moving over to the graph, we have two headings on here. One is from our new sensor, and one is from the GPS and heading that this is calculating. And you can see they're a little bit different, and you would expect it to be a little different because maybe you didn't have that sensor, dead center when you installed it. But this is a pretty good read at the moment. Now you can make some adjustments to these to tighten them up a little bit, but look what happens when I zoom out and I turn the wheel. You're going to see the distance between those two headings change quite a bit, and that's because I'm getting some interference from either the motor or the speaker. This is why I say you need to test before you go ahead and mount this. Now, my previous one did not have the compass, it just had a GPS, so I didn't have to worry about this. Looks like I can turn it on or off here on my map, so I don't have a direction going this way with my boat looking like it's going that way and having this kind of effect. So that at least is an improvement from where it was with the Helix. So here's something I've learned along the way. If you want either the GPS sensor or the compass, you actually have the option to do that, which we did not have in the Helix, but you do here in the Explorer. So go to your menu and go to your data sources that are here, and you can select your GPS sensor as an example. So we can have none, we can have the one that's built into the graph here, or we can have the new GPS sensor we put in. All you got to do is, just like you saw earlier, just deselect the auto, and then you can pick simply what you want, or you can have it automatically find it. Either way works. And in the same way, go back to data sources, click on heading. You can see we have the auto detect here by default, and we are on our GPS sensor that we just installed. I'm going to go ahead and hit none. That basically means I'm only grabbing the calculated heading coming from the Explorer 12. Go back to maps here, have it set as a favorite, and you can see it doesn't necessarily know which way I'm facing anymore. It's different from where it was a moment ago. And again, it's just the basic calculated heading from the unit here. It may bounce around like it used to, but you still get the GPS positioning that you would from the sensor otherwise. So, does Humminbird really suck? Well, you know, they kind of do. And there's a few reasons for that, and it's a little bit of a, we'll say, a split decision. Here's why. They have gone to a standard NMEA 2K port on the back of the Explorer 12, and you know what? It really does make a lot of sense. You no longer have the unique proprietary cord that you would need, otherwise you can use a standard cord, so again, I kind of get that one. Does this new GPS sensor need to be between $245 and $300 plus possibly shipping depending on where you get it from? No, I think that really sucks. It's a lot more than what the old ones used to be, and I feel just like I'm getting taken advantage a little bit by Humminbird by having to pay that price tag because I upgraded their graph and now I have to upgrade this sensor. So yeah, that kind of sucks a little bit. The next thing is this cord is really way too short. I didn't measure it, but it's got to be somewhere between 4 and 5 feet. Compared to what the old one was, that's got to be somewhere between 15 and 20 feet. Again, for what you pay for these things, you would expect it to have a longer cord. Now, if you've got an NMEA backbone already, it might be a short drop. Probably not a big deal, but if you're buying this, you should have a longer cord. Should have Humminbird made an adapter for this? Yeah, they really should have. I think this really sucks. You know, basically all we needed is an adapter with a split to go to a 12-volt power source. And actually, this kit came with a similar adapter. I don't know why they couldn't make an adapter to retrofit the equipment that most of us already had. And it should probably be between somewhere that $30 to $40 mark, like many of the other adapters. And yeah, it sucks you'd have to get an adapter, but it's a lot better than spending that, again, $245 to $300, you know, for the actual new sensor. So yeah, that really does suck. The last thing to make this a little bit of a split decision is I have the option to have either the GPS positioning or the compass, or I could have both. And I can go to the menu option on the graph, select either one or both. It's really quite simple. And again, my boat, I don't know what it is. I can't seem to find a spot where, you know, I don't have any magnetic interference. So having the compass on here doesn't work for me. I've already got the hole drilled. We've already gone through that. So that's actually a win. I actually kind of like that. So that really wraps up the video. If you like this type of content, hit the like, subscribe, helps the channel out quite a bit. We will see you next time.